Jodie, you start. Right, let's get. Got it. Thank you. Right, welcome everyone. Sorry, technical pictures. So class 4, last class, and then you run your own, girls and boys. It's exciting now as we count down nearer the time. So today we'll do all about postnatal for you and for the baby. We'll do immunization, registering the baby, and then the other bits and pieces like colic. Okay, so hello if there's anything you want to know, because this is the last chance. No, not really. You can always message me on my WhatsApp. Okay, so once you've had the baby, once you've had your baby, then remember you're going to feed. Soon up, do your skin to skin, those 9 instinctive stages, let baby feed, and then you'll go down to the ward. Baby will go to the nursery where they'll weigh it, they'll measure the head circumference, the length, they'll give it a little injection in its thigh called vitamin K because their clotting mechanism isn't so good. Then the midwife will just examine the baby top to tail to see that it's got all its fingers, toes, there's nothing that they can see. The pediatrician should come within 24 hours to examine the baby. Most gynaes have their own pediatricians that they use, but if there's somebody you prefer, then you can ask your gynae for that pediatrician to see the baby. Okay. So once they're finished with the baby in the nursery, and Dad, you go along, they'll say you don't need to come, you just go along and have a little check and see that everything's been done. Baby's name tag should be on, and your dad will take baby's clothes, nappy, and then baby comes back to you and it stays with you until you go home. Nowadays they seem to hoof you out, chop chop, one day and you're gone, which is quite a shame because it's quite nice to be in a controlled environment, because it's normally on day 3 where everything starts going topsy-turvy. If you have a Caesar, you'll stay in a little bit longer than if you have a normal delivery. Okay, so then when baby's with you, it stays with you until you go home. Hello, Nina, it's fine. Come in. Have a seat. So I'll go over. I think I'll go over mum first and then baby about what to expect after you've had your baby. So feed the baby. When you feed, it causes your uterus to contract, okay? And remember, where the placentas come away, it's a big raw patch, all right? So that's where the bleeding comes from. James, tuck that off. So for the first few days, it'll be bright red blood with clots. Okay, then it will change to a pinkish color, and then it changes to a brownish discharge. So you should bleed between 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, some mums bleed heavily, some mums not much at all. And also just remember, what is a lot of bleeding? So if your pad is soaked within the hour, that's a lot of bleeding. So if you see that and you go and say to the midwife, I'm bleeding a lot, she'll say, oh, that's normal, you should be. But if it's soaked within the hour, that is too much. Okay, then they need to come and pay attention and look and see. All right. Postpartum hemorrhage should not happen in 2022. Okay. It's not a good thing where you just bleed. Okay, and it can be fatal. So if you are bleeding a lot, then just let the midwife know. Okay, sometimes what happens with bleeding is you'll stop bleeding and then you'll start again. If that happens, or if you continue bleeding for more than 3 weeks, then you need to go and see your gynae, because then that means maybe there's a bit of membrane or placenta left behind. So it's your uterus can't contract and go back to its pre-pregnant state. So if you stop bleeding, you start again, or you're just bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, then please go back to your gynae so that you can go and have a scan. And if they are retained products, then you have to go and have go to theatre and have a DNC. Okay. By you bleeding And breastfeeding, it causes your uterus to contract, remember? And from your big tummy now, remember when the baby's born, you won't walk out of the hospital slim and trim. You'll have this big tummy wobbling around. Don't fret. Breastfeeding causes it to contract and go back to its pre-pregnant state. Remember, within 6 weeks, it should have returned to its pre-pregnant state. Okay.
Sorry.
No, fine. Welcome. So, and then your breastfeeding. So feed baby as soon as possible. All right. Day 2 to 3, your milk will come in. If you've had a Caesar, maybe a little bit later. So you'll have these nice big breasts full of milk to feed your baby. Remember, demand feed, and in time, baby will settle down into a little routine. So just for the minute, demand feed until you get to you, okay? Until you get settled, okay? Before you have your baby and after you have your baby, remember, please go and have a wee. You need to empty that bladder so it causes your uterus to contract, okay? Because if you have a full bladder, it prevents it from contracting both before and after you have the baby, all right? Hemorrhoids can be a little bit of a problem, especially towards the end of your pregnancy. As your baby, the load's getting bigger and bigger, hemorrhoids can be a problem, same as constipation. So just make sure you eat lots of fresh fruit and veg, drink lots of water so that you don't get constipated. Hemorrhoids often pop their little heads out, so pushing the baby out. That's pushing the baby. If you've got hemorrhoids that are internal, just by pushing, it can pop them out. Nothing really to do except have salt baths, okay? If they become very, very uncomfortable, you can try some of the over-counter medication like Anusol. If that doesn't help, then you'll have to go and see your gynae and they'll probably have to do a little procedure. It is quite a common thing. It's because of the high level of the progesterone that causes hemorrhoids. You know, hemorrhoids are like varicose veins. Okay. So just make sure you fresh fruit and veg, try not to get constipated. That does become a problem towards the end, and keep up your fluids. All right. If you have had an episiotomy, Shame, I had one lassie in today. We did a circumcision on her baby, and her episiotomy broke down. I don't quite know the whole story, whatever, but the gynae did decide to, she went back to theatre twice. We don't normally stitch your episiotomy. Just make sure if you have an episiotomy or a tear, you keep it clean. Okay, so your salt baths, if you can have a salt bath at least twice a day, just get that coarse salt, chuck a couple of handfuls in on your pad, you can put some betadine, change that often. You've got to keep it clean. Okay. And remember, for those first few days, it's going to be very, very uncomfortable to walk. So if you get an ear ring or one of those swimming pool rings, sit on that to take the pressure off. All right. And for feeding too, those rings are quite nice so that your little tush is not too uncomfortable. But to keep it clean is your most important thing. All right. Then we come to, I'm sure you've all heard of baby blues. On day 3, so when you have your baby, you are on this you have this euphoria, this high, you're just like drunk with love of this baby. You're just floating up here for the first few days. You'll find you won't sleep much. You're just like so excited to have this baby and you're just like all hyped up. Then day 3 comes and smacks you and says, hello, welcome to reality. So some mums and dad might come in and say, oh, you're so beautiful and look at our baby, and you'll go, boo-hoo. You'll burst into tears. Don't worry, dads, that's all normal. All you've got to do is say, all right, dear, would you like a cup of tea? And let me take the baby. And yeah, you just got to be nice to mum. It's just because those hormones have been sitting up here from the baby. Now baby's been born and they just come down into your socks. And that's where we get the baby blues. Also on day 3, what happens is your milk comes in, so you've got these big boobs. If you've had an episiotomy, a little bit tender down on your tush. And baby might be jaundiced, a little bit yellow. Just everything seems to happen on day 3. Actually, it's not fair, but don't worry. If Those tears come for nothing. That's very normal. Where it becomes a little bit of a worry is where it continues, okay? And this is postnatal depression. Postnatal depression is very common. If you're prone to a little bit of depression, just keep an eye. Your partner will know, your mum will know, somebody who knows you will look at you and you're a little bit out of sorts. So it's very daunting and overwhelming when you have this baby. You're just like, because you can't go and put it in the cupboard and say, I'll be back in a minute. It's there 24/7 with you. So postnatal depression is very common and it's very easily treated. The biggest thing is to recognize it and go and get treatment. So if you find or dad finds that mum is just like not coping or you're out of sorts or you just say, this is just too much, it's just overwhelming, then go and see your GP. And generally what they put you on is a little bit of sulfuride Equinote. It's just a chill pill. It helps you catch your breath. It's not addictive, okay? And they generally put you on it either once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, depending how bad you are or how you are coping. And it's just for about a week to 10 days, okay? It's not addictive. You can start it. It's good for milk supply too, to increase your milk supply. Because when you become anxious and a little bit down in the dumps, it will affect your milk supply, okay? So remember, rest is very important. Milk production relies on resting to make the milk and supply and demand. So you must rest, okay? So if you do feel a little bit like, oh, I'm not coping with this whole baby scenario, it's so normal, so treatable. Don't leave it, because untreated postnatal depression can rear its ugly head in 18 months or with the next baby that comes along. Then we all that time down the line. So the sooner you treat postnatal depression, the better. And it is so easily treated, okay? If you have a snag, you can just WhatsApp me. There's a lovely lady that's very good with mums who've got postnatal depression. And it's very real and very common. So don't think if you've got postnatal depression, a lot of mums think, oh, I'm not coping, I'm a failure. It's not that at all. It's just so normal. From all these hormones, this little baby takes up all your time and its job, okay, 24/7. It's the percentage is very low, where postnatal depression goes on to psychosis, and that's where the mum wants to harm the baby, where you just want to take that baby and throw it over the wall because I don't want this baby. That's a little bit more serious, in fact, very serious. But the percentage is very low, but it can happen. Okay, so I just mention it because sometimes something can just trigger and set it off. Okay, and then you need a little bit more than Equinote. All right. A lot of mums worry about, not worry, but that's one of their questions, is when they've had the baby, how soon can they start their exercise? There's no time frame. It's entirely up to you. If you're feeling chippo and back on the beach, you can start gently easing back into your exercises. Some mums need a little bit longer. I always say here, allow 6 weeks to return to normal. 6 weeks is just a guide. Some mums bounce back after a couple of weeks. Some mums after 6 weeks. Some mums after 3 months. It's okay. There's no time limit. Give yourself time to recover from the pregnancy, the birth, now all the breastfeeding and everything that goes with it. So just because Mary's bounced back after 2 weeks doesn't mean you have to. Don't compare yourself to others. We're all different, and 6 weeks is just a guide. Okay. Same as your exercises. When you feel ready, you can resume your whatever, Pilates, yoga. Walking the baby's fine. You can go out for a stroll with the baby. As you feel stronger, you'll start to do more. And with breastfeeding, the weight drops off. So don't stress too much about that. It does. You get very hungry and thirsty with breastfeeding, but the weight also drops off. So don't worry too much about that. Diet, continue with how you're eating now, a good, well-balanced diet. Everything in moderation. There's nothing that you can't eat. Like I said, chocolate might be a little bit of a snag in the first few weeks. It seems to upset the baby. And you'll just have to see if you eat something and you notice the next day baby's got a sore tummy or it's a little bit irritable, and maybe the day before you had a big plate of broccoli or 3 mangoes or something, then it could be that, okay. But there's nothing you can't eat. Drugs, remember, whatever goes in your mouth, same as when you're pregnant, same as for breastfeeding. Whatever goes in here comes out to the baby. So paracetamol is fine. If you have to go to the doctor because you're not feeling well, whatever, just tell them that you're breastfeeding so they can find a tablet that's okay with breastfeeding. When you've had your baby, it's a good idea to book an appointment with the gynae for your 6-week checkup, because at the 6-week checkup, they'll do a pap smear. If they haven't gone over your family planning in the hospital, most of them seem to do that. They'll go over it at your 6-week checkup. What they tend to do is, if you're breastfeeding, they give you the progesterone only, the pill for breastfeeding. But remember, with that pill, you have to take it at the same time every day, otherwise you'll be back for round 2 sooner than you'd like. So the breastfeeding pill, because it's just progesterone, you take it at the same time every day. If you forget it, you take it as soon as you remember, and just take precautions for 2 weeks, okay? If you want anything else, then generally at the 6-week checkup, if you want a property, whatever it is you decide to have, they'll do it at the 6-week checkup. They'll, and if you have any queries about anything, the gynaes will sort you out at your 6-week checkup. Same as if you book a 6-week checkup with the pediatrician. So you have your 6-week checkup and baby has their 6-week checkup. Okay. You're all okay with after. Another thing that can happen after you've had your baby is your hair will fall out, okay? Over the course of a couple of months, your hair falls out. But sometimes it will fall out in chunks. And very often with pregnancy, it can throw your thyroid, okay? So it's just something to be aware of. If your hair is falling out more than it should be, or if you're incredibly tired, you will be tired from having had a baby and up in the night. But if you just like so dead beat, your legs are like lead, then just go to your GP and have a blood test to check your thyroid, because like I said, often pregnancy can throw your thyroid out, okay? And if it is thrown out, it'll need to be treated with medication, all right? If varicose veins are a problem, sometimes after you've had the baby, the varicose veins can flare up. Then be careful with hot baths. You can lie with your feet up against the wall, so your legs are up like that, just to help with the drainage. Try not to wear any tight jeans or anything, okay? It's sounding very lovely, isn't it? And remember your knaping, okay? I hope you're all knaping. That's your friend forever, especially after the baby's born. You'll feel like the world wants to drop out of it, okay? Because everything's been straight. So just keep up that knaping forever and ever. Amen. Okay. Is there anything you want to ask after you've had your baby? Yeah. Zoom, anybody want to ask anything? No? Okay, so let's do the baby. When the baby's born, this was the Caesars. So if you have a Caesar, the care of your wound, don't get it wet for the first few days. You have dissolving stitches. The gynae will tell you when you need to see them. It's generally 5 to 7 days you'll have to go back. Don't lift anything heavy. Try not to fall pregnant within 12 to 18 months after a Caesar. And as soon as you've had the Caesar, you want to get up and walk around. The sooner you straighten, because when you get up, you'll be bent over. The sooner you straighten up and start walking, the better your recovery is. Okay. So going on to the baby, when the baby's born, whether it's a Caesar or a normal delivery, the midwife does the APGAR score, which you don't even notice. They do it at birth, and 5 minutes after the baby's born. And what the APGAR score is they're checking for these 5 things: the pulse, the color, the respiration, the muscle tone, and the baby's reflexes. And they score it out of 10. No baby will get 10 out of 10 after it's born because they generally lose points on the color and the breathing. Sometimes they're a little bit blue or they haven't quite got their breathing going. So on the back of your baby card, which they give you when you leave the hospital, you might see their APGAR score and you'll think, what on earth is this? That's what it is. There'll be 2 scores out of 10. Generally, it's about 7 or 8 out of 10. Then after 5 minutes, baby's picked up its color and its breathing, and it can be 9 out of 10, hopefully 10 out of 10, but it's generally about 9 out of 10. If we have a score of 6 and under, then there's a snag with the little baby and it'll have to go to the nursery. It's lost on its muscle tone or its reflexes or its pulse. There's obviously something wrong. So that's why they do the APGAR score after the baby's born. Gives us some good indication how that little tick is. Okay, so if you see the APGAR score in your card, that's what it's all about. Okay, then babies born with these reflexes, by 3 months they start failing, and then at 6 months you don't notice them. So what are they? Remember the rooting reflex, where when you brush your nipple on the baby's cheek, it turns looking for food. My husband used to, when my babies were little, he used to just go like this with the finger just to see the reaction of the baby turning like that. But that's just looking for the milk, okay? Then the sucking reflex, remember they have that. So if you can't breastfeed because the baby goes to the nursery, remember you can feed baby on a teaspoon or in a cup because it's got its sucking reflex. Grasping, if you put your finger, the baby will grasp it, and you'll see the pediatrician will check all these reflexes when he does the examination, okay? And then the stepping reflexes, he holds the baby on the table, and if you hold it and move like that, it will step, okay? So he checks the stepping reflex. Right. And then the Murrow reflex, that is if there's a loud noise or you go like this, the little baby will get a fright and its little hands come up like that. That's called the Murrow reflex. If you've got a jittery baby, okay, every time there's a noise or a bang, it'll go like this and wake itself up. So if your baby is a bit jittery, just tuck its little paws, wrap it in a little blanket and tuck its hands in, okay. Otherwise, every time there's a noise, it'll go like this and wake itself up, okay. And if you've got a little youngster that wants to be, yeah, will be. So yeah, just tuck their little hands in. Okay. And then baby's head. If you have a Caesar baby, they have nice little round heads, okay? Sometimes in a normal delivery, from sitting in your birth canal, if you've had quite a long labor, sitting in there, it might come out with an egg shape. Looks like a little alien. Don't stress. It'll go back to normal. Okay, it's just from the pressure coming down in your birth canal. So if you look at it and think, oh heck, what's going on? That's okay. Their skull bones are very, very soft for that specific reason, so that it molds into your birth canal and it'll settle in time. Okay. If you've had a vacuum and it's slipped off, sometimes they have lucky little hematoma, little egg on their head. You can put some arnica on, as long as it's not an open wound. Just pop some arnica on, and then just at the back of your mind, if there is a lot of bruising, baby might get jaundice. We'll cover jaundice in a minute. So all these funny shapes are quite normal. And in their little head, where the bones all join, so the bones will join here and up here, at the front here and at the back, we call it this bit here, and at the front here, where the bones join, it's called the fontanelle. Okay, so at the front you have a triangular shape. At the back, you have a diamond shape. At the back, you have a triangular shape. The one at the back, by 6 weeks, it would have closed. The one at the front, the anterior fontanelle, it closes by about 18 months. Okay. It's quite important that fontanelle at the front. It can tell you a lot about your baby. If it's sick, if it's had vomiting, diarrhea, and it's dehydrated, it will be very sunken, okay, together with the little dark rings under its eyes, vomiting, diarrhea. So if you notice it's very, very sunken, make sure that you just feed that baby. Babies, and this sounds a silly comment, they get sick quickly, but they also get better. So if you pick up straight away, breastfeed, feed. Fluids are so important in babies. Gastro in babies, they go down very, very quickly, but they also respond to fluids very quickly as well. Okay, so if the fontanelle is sunken, that's dehydration. If it's the other way, where it's bulging, you think of head injury. So malaria, encephalitis, meningitis. So if you see that fontanelle bulging out, baby's got a temperature, it's irritable, straight to a pediatrician. And also, little kids, yeah.
Sorry, we've been given 5 minutes before we have to be cut off. So I don't know if somebody's maybe able to set up another Zoom meeting that when this one cuts off, we can just join another one. Or
who's talking?
It's Jody.
Jody, can you not set up another? I know one of my classes, they just when it cut off, they just set up another meeting.
Perfect. I can try do that. So I'll try set up one
okay.
now.
Okay, thanks. And just let me know because we'll have to stop the recording and start again.
Okay.
Okay. Little kids, you know, they like to stick their fingers. So if you've got nieces and nephews or whatever, just be careful they don't. What is this little hole here? I mean, it's not a big hole that you, but you know, it's soft there. So keep those little sticky fingers out of that hole if you have little toddlers around you. Okay. Then we'll go on to some of the things about the baby. There's so much, but I'm going to just cover the commonest ones. So feeding, you go into demand feed, okay? Demand feed until baby gets into a little routine. And like I said to you before, granny or auntie will say, you're feeding again. No, you must really be doing it. You just demand feed. So long as that baby is latched, you can feed baby often as long as you like. All right. Demand feed till your milk comes in, till you've settled into a little routine, then baby will automatically go 3 to 4 hourly. If it's a little baby, they'll obviously feed more often for shorter periods because they get tired very quickly. Okay. And then checking the baby's temperature. Feeling the hands and feet is not a good indicator. You put your hand behind the baby's neck here, and it should be nice and warm. That's a good way to check if you're cooking your baby or it's freezing. Just pop your little hand behind the baby's neck here. Okay. Love. You can't give your babies too much love. Some of the grannies often say, you're spoiling that baby. Put it down. You can't spoil them until they can reason with you. Just keep them near you, love them lots. They grow far too quickly. I always say you have them for 5 years and then they go to school and then they're all big little people. So when they're little, and I hear a lot of moms saying, oh, I wish you would sleep through the night, or I wish you would learn the potty, or I wish you would quickly dress yourself. Don't wish that time away. I know it's exhausting and you're just like, oh, but you never have that back again, and then they become big people very quickly. So just enjoy watching them grow. It's just the most amazing thing, especially with breastfeeding. That's all your milk, growing them up into these fat little cherubs. So just enjoy, give them lots and lots of love. Those slings or pouches are so nice because you can have the baby near you all the time. Okay, so you can't give them too much love. Love them lots and lots and lots. Sleep is a very controversial subject. Another thing I've just, over the years, babies sleep or they don't. That's as simple as that. There are lots of people around and about town who do sleep training, whatever. Some charge, I think, a lot of money for teaching you how to do your baby, how to sleep. That's entirely up to you. Don't fight it. Try and just go with it, and baby will eventually settle into a sleep pattern. Okay. If it's getting you down, we have a wonderful lady called Kate Evans. Unfortunately, she couldn't come to us today. She's our nursery nurse. Kate does any problems from baby to 7 years. Okay. She trained in the UK and she works with Ferrari Drive. You just give her a WhatsApp. I think I sent it on my email. Just give her a WhatsApp, and Kate is wonderful. You can either go and see her, or she'll do it over a Zoom or WhatsApp call. Just to help you if you're getting distraught with no sleep. Generally,